Good evening. Hope the day has treated you well and you're staying dry. I'm Mia Gradney here live at the KHOU 11 studios with our annual back to school Q&A with area superintendents and district police chiefs. KHOU 11, proud to be your education station. Goose Creek Consolidated Independent School District students returned to school last week. 1 week later, we're checking in. Joining us tonight is Superintendent Dr. Randal O'Brien and District Police Chief Davis Smith. Hello there, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. We're glad you're having us.
Wonderful. Dr. O'Brien and Chief Smith are going to stand by for just a minute. We want to get a quick check of the weather for you. We've been closely watching the radar this evening. Chief Meteorologist David Paul, how is it looking at this hour?
It's still wet out there, Mia, but overall, the thunderstorms from this afternoon moving into the evening are beginning to show a weakening trend. A couple of spots still getting strong thunderstorms. Baytown to Mont Bellevue, that's a strong thunderstorm putting down some heavy rain there. Could see some minor street ponding. That one's going to cross across the bay here over the next several minutes. If it holds together, it reaches Bay Cliff by 7:50. And then the main line of storms, this is the one that dumped all the rain that caused the street ponding earlier, now pushing into the coastal counties and weakening as it does. Galveston, you're getting lightning and thunder right now, but it's not severe. Again, that line pushing south, reaches Bay City by 7:44, reaches Wadsworth by 8:25, and heads up folks across Matagorda Bay. That may put some gusty wind across the bay once it gets there in about an hour, hour and a half. This is part of a long several-day period where we're going to see rounds of scattered showers and thunderstorms for the next 5 days. This may put a significant dent in the drought. We will talk more about that on KHOU 11 News at 10 later tonight. Mia, back to you.
All right, thanks, Dave. We'll get another update from you soon, but if anything pops off, we'll get right back to you. Now back to the business at hand, back to school Q&A with Goose Creek Consolidated ISD and Superintendent Dr. O'Brien and District Police Chief Davis Smith. Dr. O'Brien, weather involves plenty of logistics for a school district of 24,000. What are severe weather plans like for Goose Creek?
Well, we start off by watching cheetah in the mornings.
We like that answer.
We have a crew. Our chief operations officer and our director of transportation usually are out on the roads by 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning. It gives us about an hour to assess. At the very latest, we report to all the media outlets so that we can let our families know whether or not we'll have a late start or we'll be starting on time. When possible, if it's projected weather that's going to last more than a few hours, we like to get on the night before and let our community know.
Sounds good. All right, we have weather out of the way for now, at least. Let's talk security. This is a big area of concern for parents, not just in Goose Creek, but really all across the state, all across the nation. Chief, we have a parent who asked, how has the district improved safety and security on campuses?
Well, one of the things that we are very fortunate to have with our police department is huge support from our board of trustees and Dr. O'Brien. And so this year, in the wake of Uvalde and a lot of different other things, that we've been allotted 18 new positions for our police department, which were 10 security and 8 police positions, which would bring our staff, once we fill all of those positions, 31 sworn peace officers and 30 security officers for the school district. One of the other things that we're doing is making sure that we start focusing more on our situational awareness and truly understanding that this is an effort that's going to, take us to have a kind of a cultural change to where we really focus on security above convenience. And I think if we do that, as a whole, we're going to be a lot better off when it comes to our safety and security.
Chief, you talked about adding those new positions for the current staff that you have within the district police office. How many of those officers are assigned to schools?
Our current situation that we have is 2 officers that are regularly assigned to our high school campuses for security to high school. Then our junior highs, we have 1 officer, 1 security in place. For our elementary campuses moving forward, as we go into the new year and with the new positions. We're going to have dedicated patrol officers that are specifically focused on our elementary campuses.
I see. A lot of people also want to know, what does physical perimeter security look like? Meaning, do you have fencing around your campuses to protect those campuses?
I can talk
yes, we do. Go ahead, Dr. Bryan.
I was just going to say, we've been working on that, Mia, for about the last decade. A decade ago, one school out of 32 had fencing around it. Now all of them have fencing, perimeters, secure vestibules, cameras. Chief, you can talk a little bit more about the alarm systems and things of that nature. We have done all that we know to do in regards to bulletproof glazier in the entryways. Chief, you want to chime in?
No, you hit it on the head there, Dr. O'Brien. We have done an excellent job of securing our campuses, hardening them, making it difficult for anyone trying to gain access to one of our campuses.
Yeah. And as for those actual school buildings, moving past the fencing, are there locks on all classroom doors? And what's the policy with those door locks?
Right now, everyone is kind of focusing on the mandates that TA has put on, and again, the accountability to make sure that our students, our staff, and our visitors are safe once they come on the campus. So we've already implemented, teachers and administrators, everybody understanding that our classrooms have to be locked at all times. And we have security and police personnel that are making sure that happens. We've been doing that since day one, and we will continue to do that.
Joy Powers, she wants to know, how often are staff and students trained for an intruder alert?
Well, annually we do things. I think this year, even prior to the unfortunate events in Uvalde, our communications staff and I had already put in place to start doing some training that we could do training videos using the CRAZE model to make sure that our staff and students are aware of what they need to do should an unfortunate event take place. And that's very important because our teachers are going to be our first responders in any incident until the actual first responders get there. So it's important that they are aware of how to perform, what they need to do, and using the CRAZE model with avoid, deny, defend as that hierarchy of action. And so we want to make sure that they get that and that it's regimented so that it's just muscle memory. They're really not thinking about it.
Chief Davis and Superintendent O'Brien with answers to your questions. A reminder again to text your questions to the number there at the bottom of your screen at 713-526-1111. We had loads of inquiries about school lunches, Superintendent O'Brien. We know families are economically challenged, some really struggling right now. And last year, lunches were free per a federal program and COVID. How will the lunch program work this year for students?
Well, Goose Creek did apply to the agricultural department for continuance of the universal free breakfast, and we were qualified. So all students will continue to receive free breakfast and after-school snacks. We have gone back to the free and reduced lunches as was set in place previously. But we're here to serve the students, and about 75% of our students meet that measure of free and reduced lunch.
And is there anything that they need to do, the families? I know you sought the continuance, or the district sought the continuance. What about the families ensuring that they get to take part in those benefits? Is it still the regular application process? How does that work?
It is, and it's part of our beginning of the school registration process. So the students are getting a lot of that paperwork handed to them even prior to the school start, and then now. One of the things that we also do to ensure that we have that security, that food security across our communities, we partner up with Houston Food Bank. And in fact, they come, I think it's once a month, to each one of our campuses, our high school campuses, to provide the opportunity for families to come and receive that food. We're venturing into a new partnership with them that includes a refrigerated box of food and it's not installed as of yet, but we have entered into an agreement with Houston Food Bank to bring out that refrigerated permanent structure that will have a combination for our family members to go 24/7 to that to receive additional food and support, as well as our local community churches. They do a great job also hosting sponsored events with Houston Food Bank as well.
That sounds like an actual pantry within the school district. Is that what's in the works?
That's correct. They asked if they could put it on our property, and we have a place identified for it. It will be forthcoming soon. It's something to the model of a refrigerated truck that will be fixed on the ground, and like I said, with a combination door lock that will our students and their families will be able to access it anytime.
It's so important for families to have that access, because if children are hungry or food insecure, it's really hard to focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we know that the district has made great strides in helping the children achieve success. We know school rankings came out this week from the TEA for the first time since COVID. Let us know how Goose Creek did.
Well, I'm very, very proud. Our overall report was we scored an 89. We'll take that. It's a little bit like kissing your sister, but we'll take that 89 because it's demonstrated significant progress over the last several years. We're going to fight for that one more point to garner that A for our school district, for our students, for our families to take pride in that. But I have to tell you, going into the pandemic and through the midst of it, we're meeting with CEOs of local hospitals. We're trying to figure out CDC guidelines. And to be honest, we were distracted, with the academic component. And but we challenged our teachers to step up, and I have to tell you, they did. In the midst of everything, some of the earlier forecasting was that we would come out of the pandemic at least 18 months behind academically. And I can speak for the hard work that our teachers and support staff have put in our school district. I'm very proud to present that 89 as the highest academic performance we've had with such a diverse, large school district. Well, mid-sized district in the greater Houston area in over a decade. So very proud of coming out of the pandemic with that academic success for our students and their families.
It's really some accomplishment considering all that's going on with COVID. We also know there's a nationwide teacher shortage. With that, we're asking all our local school districts, where do they stand? How is Goose Creek doing when it comes to having enough teachers?
Well, I'll give you those numbers momentarily, but first and foremost, it starts, I think Chief gave credit to our Board of Trustees appropriately, because they take it personally that they want our teachers to feel valued. And we have one of the highest paying teacher scales in the state, specifically in the region as well. And that's a challenge because in the urban settings, pay scales go up and up. And our board is committed to remaining competitive in teacher salary and all other salaries for that matter. And they're constantly looking for things beyond salary, for example, benefits and things of that nature. And I'm proud that we're continuously innovative and trying to ensure our teachers that we value them, because they don't hear it typically. So we want to make sure as a school district, we're creating a culture where teachers want to come to work. And that I have to give credit to the campus principals, the campus leaderships, because that's where the magic happens, is on the campuses. And our leaders do a great job of creating a family environment so that our employees want to come to work, and as well as the students want to come to school. We've actually, this past week, it was kind of a fun story. We've implemented a couple of new programs for our early learners. And we've had students at the end of the day say, do I have to go home? Do I have to? Wanting to stay.
Well, that's nice.
That was really exciting for me to see that.
Yes, yes, yes. So you do have enough teachers this year. We know we've talked to some. They've had a couple of hundred. Others have had close to just a dozen. What's it like in Goose Creek?
So in Goose Creek, we have an average annual attrition rate of about 15%, just under the state average, usually tipping around 16%. We've been as low as 12% and as high as 15 or 16%. I would say across the state, across the nation, we're probably up about 5 percentage points, which for us would mean we had at one point over the course of the spring and the summer semester about 400 vacancies. I'm proud to report that we're down to 40 vacancies, and we have long-term subs in those positions. But one of the things about being a district of innovation, our board enabled us to become, was that we can recruit teachers, before they've attained all of their credentials to be a certified teacher, we get them on board. We provide the professional development and the pedagogy for them. And then we also, at Goose Creek, we pay for their certification, which is a definite benefit for people considering getting into education but are undecided about that $4,000 or $5,000 credential that they have to go and get after their bachelor's degree. So I'm proud that our district is doing everything we can to draw talented people to come and teach our students.
Yeah. And do you have enough substitutes? I know you said you'll lean on some long-term substitutes to fill the gap in the meantime.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to advertise. We do currently have a full substitute roster, but we welcome anyone interested in serving in that capacity to call that number.
All right, the call has been put out there. Speaking of calls, you can also text us right now. Ask your questions to Superintendent O'Brien and Chief Smith with Goose Creek Consolidated ISD. We want to talk about learning loss. This seemed to be a question that resonated with some parents. Despite rankings being surprisingly good, some parents are still concerned about learning loss due to COVID and virtual learning and all that we've been having to deal with. How is the district dealing with the potential learning loss for some students where it's greater than others?
Well, as Chief mentioned, we didn't just start security measures, and the same would be true for our academic concerns. We began putting up those fences and secure vestibules a decade ago and have secured that for all campuses now. The same is true for academics. Truthfully, it's not something you snap your finger or do overnight or in a short period of time. We've been building supports for academics for a long time. And in particular, we have explored other districts that are successful, and we don't believe in reinventing the wheel. We'll go out, find what someone's doing well. I took my team and we traveled to Nashville, Tennessee, found out about a CTE program that we thought might have an interest to Goose Creek, and we implemented something called a school within a school, and it has turned into something phenomenal with 3 traditional high schools, 3 alternative high schools, each of which now can host an academy. CTE Academy, which is basically a career pathway for students who may or may not choose to go to college. But so the learning loss that I'm referencing in a global way is connectivity with the students. We want our students to want to come to school. We want them to be connected to something. And of course, we have athletics and fine arts, but we were looking for other measures. And I would say that one of the things that has carried us through the pandemic, outside of the stellar job that our teachers have done, implementing technology immediately, is that the kids want to be here. They want to be a part of their programs that they've connected to. But we are also known as a distinguished Apple school district, and that didn't come overnight either. We began probably 4 or 5 years ago with a full-scale implementation of a one-to-one technology for every student in the district. So we had done that 4 or 5 years ago before the pandemic got here. Our kids were accustomed to using the technology for their lessons each and every day. Teachers were accustomed to teaching with technology each and every day, but there was that conversion to the remote instruction that we made. And honestly, that happened, as we all know. For us in particular, the pandemic was announced over our spring break. The good news is our chief technology officer is phenomenal. He brought in his crew during spring break, during their break, and got his whole team together, got all of the technology that would be needed. Our administrative team got together and hosted trainings for all of our administrators to partner up with this technology team to be prepared to do a 3-day training for teachers on remote instruction. And every teacher in our district, more than 2,000 probably, were trained in a 3-day period of time, meaning we started instruction 3 days after spring break would normally have ended. So we didn't waste time getting the ball rolling on that. I think that helped us getting on the front end of on the curve, and then having our students already acclimated to technology use has really been helpful. But I'll touch on just a couple more. That connectivity with the academies for the secondary student, something we've begun just a couple of years ago. We began exploring our early learning, because oftentimes what we're trying to do in public education is close the learning gaps for students, close the opportunity gaps for students. And we think about that in terms of the secondary students and their academic performance and success on the state assessments and things of that nature. but we've really turned our focus towards early learning, and we've incorporated a curriculum program called Fueling Brains that will help support fidelity across the district, in addition to instituting a play-learn environment in our pre-K classrooms, which is really kind of cool. I can't explain it adequately to you, but it is a children's museum quality experience that each child walks into one of 16 classrooms that are all designed differently, and it draws their attention, and they begin to increase their vocabulary just through exposure of playing in an environment that doesn't have student desks, doesn't have teachers' desks for that matter. Our teachers begin to facilitate differentiated learning across the room through learning and playing and learning that vocabulary. They might not learn about the wetlands until 6th grade, but as a 4-year-old, they're living in the wetlands classroom and learning about the ocean and brackish water and things of that nature.
Sounds really exciting.
I'm sorry, I could ramble on and on. But
no,
yes,
no. It sounds really exciting. That's why you're talking so much about it. It's wonderful. It makes you want to go back to school for folks like myself and experience a fun, interactive classroom like that again. I want to get back to Chief because we have a question from a parent. Chief Smith, they asked, what are you doing to improve the school crossings? Traffic is horrible, a parent says. They want to know, what are you doing about school crossings?
Well, I will say this, aside from having 3 new campuses that we opened this year, then you factor in new parents to that experience. And so it has been a challenge to make sure that, we try to limit the congestions and the traffic as best we can. And we know that the first day is always going to be the most hectic. And then we kind of transition by the end of the first, going into the second week, it starts to get figured out. So we will continue to work and improve on those measures. But we know some of our campuses right now that we're struggling on day one are now functioning without much assistance from police or security working on the campuses.
Another question for you, Chief. We have a parent who asked, how are we controlling guns going to school and overall gun safety? Okay.
Well, we don't have metal detectors or anything like that, but we do have K9s that have the ability to search, sniff out those types of things. So we do have our K9s that make random checks in our schools to make sure that we don't have that. But one of the biggest things that we really rely on in that area is the ownership of our staff and our students. Because they're going to hear and see things that we never will, but to make sure that those things are reported to us. We have a great working relationship with Crime Stoppers Baytown in the area. We've done a great job of collaborating and building those programs to where we have actual on-campus participation from the actual students. So we have that buy-in from students and staff, and so that really helps and deters a lot of activity as well.
Chris asked, why are so many kids being sent to San Jacinto Elementary School? We know that a lot of our districts are growing. Can you speak to Chris's concerns, Superintendent O'Brien? Why are so many kids at one specific school? Here he's referencing San Jacinto Elementary.
And I was just going to say to Chief, make sure you tell him about the 3 brand new campuses. San Jacinto is one of them. San Jacinto Elementary traditionally was a small walk-up school with about 400 students, and now it houses a capacity of 850 students. We knew that the building was being built larger than the immediate community that it served, and therefore have added the Early Learning Academy to that campus. So we have, as Chief alluded to, first-time parents coming to an area that the school never was. So the school was about 3 or 4 blocks away, and it was replaced due to the small nature of it and outdated facility of it. And it's been relocated to a major traffic intersection in the community. But we do, as Chief alluded to, it takes a couple of weeks to work out the kinks. And we do believe with the police officer, security officer, and crossing guard assistants. We're providing a safe environment for those kiddos, but it is congested. We're not going to fib and say it's not congested. Everything's hunky-dory every minute of every day. It's just something we're aware of, we're working on, and we're looking to facilitate that. But there are more students attending that particular campus than ever before.
Let's talk student and staff health. A parent asked, what's the COVID protocol for this school year and the mask policy?
So there is no mask policy. We're following CDC guidelines. And what we currently do, we're blessed once again, our board throughout COVID had provided 5 additional days for our employees who were ill with COVID. And then we've always allowed for students to have remote instruction during COVID. So if they're sick, they still are able to get remote instruction. The current policy is if you have symptoms, we suggest that you isolate, as suggested by CDC, for up to 5 days. Once you're fever-free and symptom-free, come back to work. That's the current protocol for the state, and we're obviously complying with that. You can, as a school district, opt to have more stringent regulations, but what we have learned is that our community wants us to be open. In fact, last spring, we opened up all facilities to all parents for lunches, field trips, things of that nature. And it was a refreshing thing for our community to see that we were opening back up as best we could at that time. This year, although we're well aware COVID's not completely gone, we are operating under normal protocols with our welcoming our community back into our campuses.
One final question. What extra supports are you giving to school nurses, someone has asked? Because I think in this heightened awareness that we all experience, trying to make sure, do I have a fever? Do I have a headache? Is it COVID? Is it the flu? That maybe there's a flood of students going to school nurses' offices. So we have someone asking, what extra support are you giving to school nurses in the clinics?
Well, the good news is all of our clinics are close to the office. So we have additional office staff to support them. One of the things we were aware of early on into the pandemic was they were working additional hours. We felt like they were also at a higher risk of exposure. So our Board of Trustees, upon the recommendation of administration, considered salaries for nurses as well as stipend pay for nurses. So while that doesn't take care of everything, it is a vote of confidence for them that we value them, we appreciate them. They are at the highest point of risk by seeing so many children sick every single day. But outside of that, we just ensure that we are hiring high quality nursing staff. We will recruit from the local hospital systems if need be, but we have a wonderful, wonderful lead nurse that manages all of that, and I can always count on her to let me know what the needs would be. Currently, we feel confident in the services we're providing to the kids and their families.
Our time here together has gone by so fast, I tell you, but we've covered so much. A couple of quick final questions, starting with Superintendent O'Brien. How can parents best support their students and set them up for success this school year?
Well, I think primarily for us, I think across the state, across the nation, there was a drop in school attendance for all students. Even with remote instruction accessible to all students in Goose Creek, there was a tendency to not turn the monitor on every single day or not come when we did open back up. So the primary thing for me to gain the parent support is to get your kid here, to lose the attitude of, well, we might just take a little 4-day weekend or a 5-day weekend because of the inhibited learning during the COVID event. But and we're putting that in our rearview mirror. We're going to ask our parents to support us by just getting your kid to school, because we know that missing school is missing out on a learning opportunity for that kid. And like I said, most kids are attached and want to be in school now. We're excited about that. It's not a big fight, but just provide that support. The other thing is just be patient with us. If we're not getting the answer you want day one, give us a chance. We're trying very hard to work out all the kinks of scheduling and things of that nature. Just be patient with us. We really do have your students' best interests at heart. We love them. We want them to be successful, just like you do as a parent.
Yeah. Chief, in closing, we have a question from a student actually says, I'm concerned the glass walls in my classes and impact will not keep me safe. What do you want to let students know about their personal safety when they are in a Goose Creek CISD building?
Well, one thing is for them to know that their safety is our primary concern. There's nothing more important than that. Those students, our staff members, our visitors, they're our families. You know, that's our community, and we're going to do everything in our power to keep them safe at all costs. And we want them to know that our officers are here to support. We're here to ensure that we don't have crime, that we have also the free from the fear of crime. We want to make sure that they're focusing on their learning objectives and not whether or not something's going to come on the campus and harm them. So we just want them to know that they are our top priorities. And we know that this is going to take a community effort. This is not just something for police and security. You know, we really need our community, our students, our staff to understand that, hey, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. If you feel something, say something. And our job is to make sure that we vet every piece of information, every actionable piece of intel that comes our way. We want to make sure that we check everything out because we don't want to assume anything. We want to make sure that we're taking all the measures necessary to make sure that every student, every staff member goes home safely.
This really is a popular question about these glasses or windows, I should say, that are in this one school. Superintendent O'Brien, do you know, is there anything to be presented to the board about infrastructure in some of these buildings with students are saying glass classroom walls?
Well, the particular campus you're talking about, the glass that I'm familiar with the most is in the cafeteria area. So that could be a natural concern, and but it is far enough away from the roadway where there's not a high risk of roadway concerns, and it is a secure campus. So as Chief said, our presence should be enough for the students to know we're there to react should something go. The training that our Chief has gone through, not only he, but he's hosted several of our community surrounding law enforcement organizations on a tabletop to be prepared for something like this, to respond extremely quick, including gunshot detection and things of that nature. We have immediate response based upon the training that they currently have. So there are officers available and on staff near that campus and on that campus. And yes, and I can't reiterate what Chief said the most. It's just, if you see something, say something. You feel uncomfortable, let us know. We're going to have the troops and the cavalry right there on the spot should something occur. Like I said, I can't assess if there's an absolute risk with glass. Many schools have glass around their facilities, but the academic wing has less glass than the extracurricular wing.
All right. Thank you for answering that question. In addition to all the others tonight, Superintendent Randal O'Brien and Chief Smith, thank you so much for your time. We know parents and students tonight appreciate you answering their questions, and I'm sure you'll hear from them. We're encouraging them to keep this conversation going as you've been open and receptive to answering their questions as well.
Thank you, Mia.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mia. We appreciate you.
KHOU 11 is proud to provide this platform as Houston's education station. Thank you to all of you watching. All our best on a safe and productive school year. And we're hoping tomorrow morning getting to school will not be an issue. We've seen plenty of rain this evening. It has tapered off in some areas, but here and now with more on the forecast for you is Chief Meteorologist David Paul. Hey there, David.
Well, that's the right question, Mia. What is tomorrow morning going to bring? It is forecast to be a quiet morning tomorrow morning. But by mid-morning into the afternoon tomorrow, we expect more of this, scattered showers and thunderstorms. And it is weakening overall what's happening this evening, but it's not quite done with us yet. Still some cloud-to-cloud lightning from Baytown to Red Bluff to Anahuac, Mont Belvieu. That little line of showers now pushing into the north portion of Galveston Bay. It holds together and pushes down toward the coast as we head toward 831 by Texas City. But Texas City, you're getting rained on right now. Here's the main line of storms. This is what pushed through southeast Texas earlier, causing the flash flooding threat. It is now weakening, although still strong storms near Victoria. No severe weather watches or warnings out there right now. That line pushes south. Lake Jackson, it's almost to you guys. It'll be there soon. Palacios, it reaches you in about an hour. As we get in towards Seadrift, it reaches you by 9:30 in the evening. This is the beginning of a wet weather pattern that may last for the next 5, 6, 7 days and put down a whole lot of rain across Texas, having significant impacts on the drought. We'll talk more about that and look into the weekend forecast on KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock tonight. Mia, you and I will be there, and we'll have an update then.